so much. I'm very excited to see everybody here. Is everybody glad to be out? Hey, hey. Isn't this special? Anyway, I'm the founder and CEO, as she mentioned, of the World's Best Connectors. WBC is a virtual community and think tank for C-suite executives, so CEOs, CIOs, CFOs, et cetera, and business owners. Believe it or not, I chose the theme for this conference, December. Okay, so how to deal with chaotic times, but I didn't think it was going to be this chaotic. Okay, I was thinking of hacking, computer hacking and climate change. Who would have thought this would be what would take us down, or at least slow us up? We're here to hopefully enhance your connections, and again, this has a special meaning now, more so than it did when I first thought about this conference, because there are 5 areas, 5 themes that the WBC helps people with. So one is family relations. Now that's become very interesting the past year. So we help people with that, and you'll be hearing about that a little later. We do help people with employees. Last year, we were more worried about generational conflicts in the workplace, and now they're not in the same workplace anyway, but it's a whole different challenge that you're dealing with, trying to deal with people from home. So we'll talk about that and some other issues related to that. Clients, that's what most people think of. When they think of business associations, what business associations do, they have clients and they make deals. So we do that. We still do that. And I'm sort of a business matchmaker, so I sort of put people together. And my theory is that you put 3 smart people in a room, great things happen. And that's what's been happening with our group. It's going to be a small group. It's never going to be more than 100 people total. So it's not like a chamber of commerce or association, and it's going to be very intimate. People know each other, trust each other. We have 50 of those already, so we're well on our way. So I want to thank you all. This is different. It's going to be very different from what you're used to, and I don't want to take up any more time because we got a lot of great speakers coming. Wova is the name of that company that's developed the app, so be sure to use that when you leave. If you leave early, you go to lunch, whatever. You can find out the agenda, read everybody's bio. There are virtual exhibits. We didn't want to drag banners and all that stuff in here today, so the events are all virtual. So it'll be a little different this year. I hope it's still fun for you, and we'll see what happens next year. But again, thanks everybody for coming.
This year, as CEOs, we have all been challenged at work because home has been work. There has not been much discussion about it in the media, but we've had to think a lot about relationships, multitasking schedules, and even what ifs. For example, what if something happens to the family of the breadwinner, or the breadwinners are taken and disabled by COVID-19? As a result, Lynn Austin will guide us through some of those many issues with her panel titled, It's a Family Affair. Lynn Austin, come on up.
So as we're in this phase of chaos, and Denise's premonition of chaotic times, we find ourselves earlier this year in a pandemic situation. And so when we look at the family and how that impacts and affects what our life is, it's everything. So we're looking at the relationships in the family, we're looking at how our businesses are surviving, and we're looking at whether or not we've appropriately planned for our life, our lifestyle, our finances. And so with this panel, this distinguished and honored selection that we have here today will kind of help to guide us through some of that. So at this time, I'd like to, do we have?
Okay, my name is Luis Cruz. I'm with a Cruz Advisory Group. I actually have been an advisor for 30 years now. And I started my career with Northwestern Mutual Life. As I found out, my colleague over here is a Northwestern Mutual Life advisor, general agent. Great company. And my practice is, about 90% of my practice is professional women, women business owners. And so I work almost exclusively with professional women. There are some personal reasons for that, and there are some business reasons for that. And personal reasons, I saw my mother struggle. I was born in the islands, and I saw my mother struggle a lot. My mother didn't have any education. However, I always told my mother that I thought that she was the first woman's lib ever created. She never took my father's last name, so I always used to tell that to my mom. So, so there were a lot of reasons for that. I felt that she was always taken advantage by the system, by other people. So that's one of the reasons that led me to work a lot with women. And the other reason was my sister. And the business side of it is the government, the Labor Department several years ago had a study that said that 75% of women, mostly professional women or women in business, lag behind men in getting their finances straight. It didn't mean the study showed that they knew where their monies were, but what happened was that it didn't show, the study showed that because they were concentrating so much on their careers, they didn't know how to work in their finances. They neglected that part. And the other part is that women are more, sorry guys, but women are more receptive to ideas and concepts. Women sometimes are too proud to accept things, where women ask more questions. So to me, that makes my life a lot easier. So that's what I do.
First of all, thank you so much for putting the meeting together, and all of you who had to make all this happen, ASU with your money and support, the donors, Solange from the City Council showing up, and my friend Denise, thank you. I know you worked your fanny off to make this all happen. And then those of you who got up and got out here to come and make a presentation. This is great. So it's a great pleasure. So, gosh, things are really interesting now, right? You know, we've watched what's happened, and nobody was expecting anything to be like this even a year ago. And we have seen so many amazing things happen. People are so creative and generous and trying so hard to help others. And we're remembering that, of course, this is all going to pass, and one day this will be done and behind us, and we'll be able to look forward. So I've had a great good fortune to be able to work primarily with business owners. That accounts for about 85% of the business that we do, and the rest is with physicians and a lot of entrepreneurs. Probably half of those are women, so we're not at your 90 or 100%, Louise. It's about 50-50. And these are people who are looking forward to trying to make things happen. And gosh, it's been a great pleasure. So I'm going to hit a couple of quick highlights to just talk about them and let you know what's going on. So people are really wondering a lot. I get a lot of questions. We have millions and millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars of assets under management. We do a lot of work in the risk planning area. We do a lot with the state and tax planning, and people trying to figure out how they're ever going to be able to retire on their own terms. And it is tricky, and the laws are just stacked against business owners and business executives and highly compensated people. There is not much happening that's in our favor today. So, what are some things going on? People are looking around and they're calling me about the stock market. And what should I do? Should I get out and go to cash right now and wait till after the election? Probably not. It doesn't too much matter who's going to get elected, because 10 years from now, the portfolios will have recovered from whatever's going on. So don't make any 30-year decisions based on 30 hours of news, okay? That doesn't make a great deal of sense. You'd be far better off. You already saw this happen back in 2008 and 9 and 10 when everybody's 401k turned into a 201k, right? And then the people who pulled their money out and went to cash have still never recovered. If you left it alone, you have 3 times as much money now as you did then. So chill out. It's okay, right? We got this. Ditto with, we see these things happen when, and none of what I'm saying is political commentary, everybody. It's just what's going on. So when Senator Sanders won the Nevada primary, the stock market took a huge dip the next day. And then the COVID happened right after that. So people forgot about the Sanders part. So he was down there for a while. Then when he announced that his candidacy was going to stop, right, he was going to suspend his approach, the stock market went up 700 points within an hour. Nothing changed. The economy was still where it was, and the stock market was where it was. And people just don't get this confused. The stock market and the economy are two different things, right? So just relax. It's okay. This is still the United States. It's a capitalistic society. It's going to work, all right, no matter who's in there. Taxes. The taxes are getting tricky. A couple of things, I don't know if you noticed all of this, but I'll give you a couple of highlights just for your own planning and to discuss with your advisors. I'm hoping that you have a financial advisor who's working on your team to help you with what's going on. A couple of big things. One is that for the first time in the lifetime of anybody in this room, the United States national debt is higher than a year of GDP. This has not happened in your lifetime. And this is not good. This is an unsustainable situation. We cannot make it work like this. And for centuries, all nations, whether they were monarchies or principalities or republics or otherwise, have always done the same thing when this happens. You inflate the currency and raise taxes. Right? If you raise taxes, there's more money to pay this back with. And if you inflate the currency, it's easier to pay back the debt. Because what's remarkable is debt does not inflate. Right? If you owe $20 trillion today and you just service the debt for 20 years, you still only owe $20 trillion. But the income is higher, right? Debt does not inflate. So you heard 3 Tuesdays ago, I couldn't believe it, but they said it, Secretary Mnuchin of the Treasury and Chairman of the Fed, Geithner, both 2 different news interviews, stated that the United States was changing its monetary policy with respect to inflation. Of course, my ears pricked up. What they have done at the Treasury Department all these last 20-something years was manage inflation so that it would not exceed 2% in any one year. And now they said they're changing that annual model to an average. That's like somebody telling you it's safe to wade across a river that has an average depth of 4 feet. Yeah, yeah, careful. So that's one thing. And guys, this is not, it doesn't matter about Democrat, Republican, the taxes are going up, right? When the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was put in place in late 2017 to take effect in 2018, we have I'm sorry guys, this is just the worst thing that ever happens. It's when the White House and the Senate and the House are all one party because nobody can get anything done and they just jam it down our throats. So here we're facing this huge deficit and this huge debt, and their solution was to lower the tax rates. Now, I mean, my clients were very happy about this because the taxes went down, right? But again, this was an unsustainable thing. Our tax rates today are the lowest they've been in 86 years. Like half of what it's supposed to be to make this work. And I'm not about high taxes, but I don't think that's the solution for things. Nonetheless, that's the fact. So they put this law in place that would lower everybody's tax rates and lower the tax brackets. You don't even hit the top tax bracket. You don't even hit the top tax bracket until you're at $622,000 of taxable income. This is nice. You can do some pretty good stuff up there. Then you're at the top rate. The proposal is to lower that from $622,000 down to $400,000 for a married couple or $200,000 for a single person with a tax rate of 70%. And again, not political commentary, but that's what the proposal is from the Democratic side of the House. And they come in, that should happen sometime early in the year, I would expect in 2021. If the Republicans retain the office, and I'm not sure what's going to happen with the Senate, I mean, nobody really knows, right? Even then, the tax rates have to go up because the lower tax rate was an 8-year proposal, and the old tax rates are coming back anyway. So no matter what happens, we have 1 year or 5 years, and we're going to get whacked. So that's a big concern. So one of the things that we should be working on is looking at the things that the Congress has allowed in the tax code under the IRS on how to get our income in retirement to be tax-free. There are a number of mechanisms that you can use to get that income tax down. Why is this so important? It's because we don't know what that rate's going to go to. I do know this is the lowest rate we've had in 80-something years. So the odds of this rate staying at this level, I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. That's simply not going to happen. So this is a concern. So think about your longer-term planning and what we can do to get that down. So you can either retire earlier because you're not paying taxes on the income, or retire better because you don't have to pay taxes then. Social Security, let's cover that very quickly. Guys, it's broke. And this is because there are now only 4 people paying into the system for every 1 person taking money out. By the time, looking at your ages, by the time that you get to retirement, that number will be down to 2 people paying in for every 1 person taking money out. When it started, there were 40 people paying into the system for every 1 person taking out. This isn't going to work, and they keep monkeying around with the trust fund and doing strange things to it. The worst part of this for us is that they decided to start taxing the Social Security benefits. I'm sorry, I don't like that. Do you remember your very first paycheck? I mean, from a real job, your very right. And remember, you were working by the hour, right? And so you multiplied your number of hours times your hourly rate, and you expected to get a check for that, right? Did that ever happen? Nobody got that. You're still not getting it. So they go, who is FICA, right? So what happens is that people don't seem to understand it, but do you know that your FICA tax, your Social Security tax that you pay, is paid with after-tax dollars? Nobody ever thinks about it. We think, okay, my income was here, then they take out my Social Security, and then they tax the rest. No, your income's here, they tax all of that. Now, they get their part out, and you have after-tax dollars, and then we pay our Social Security contributions. So make it clear, everyone in this room, every dollar that we've paid into the Social Security system was already taxed once. And now, in retirement, if you're single, $25,000, married, $32,000, if your retirement income is north of those numbers, and who's going to be lower than that, right? Your Social Security is going to be taxed a second time. Unbelievable. Yeah, double taxation on the same dollars, crazy. But there are ways around that, and the way around that is to have your other income in retirement be tax-free, because it's outside the tax collection system in the U.S., so nothing shows up on the 1040 or below that level, and then our Social Security comes back in tax-free, right? This is the way to plan, so that part's good. Another item very quick that we've discovered, when people really do work hard, right, we work, we pay our employees, and we cover all of our stuff, we pay our taxes, we're trying to save some money, and we actually save up some money after all of that. We've taken care of our families, they get medication, education, recreation, vacation, and all the other kind of Asians, and we actually have a little money left, and we save that up, and I want to retire on that, and they want to tax that too? No, thank you. So maybe you're actually able to get out a little early. And if you listen to your advisor, stay in the workforce, follow their instructions, you're going to get rich. Nothing else can happen, right? So now you're 55 instead of 75 and you're able to retire. And the government now forces you to buy health insurance at the exchange rate. Do you know what the numbers are? This is absolutely bizarre. If your income is $78,000 or less, you qualify for the subsidy and can get health insurance at a decent price, like $500 a month or so. If you make $79,000, you pay about $1,200 or $1,400 a month for the same insurance, because even though you're the one who paid all the taxes in, so the subsidy money could be there, you're too qualified, you don't get to take it out, and you're just being penalized for having saved your money. So do you see there's got to be some mechanism for getting money out, right, that is within the threshold that they allow you to do, so you have money to spend, but money that doesn't show up on the taxes to put you up over the threshold. So those are some of the kind of things we're faced with today.
Wow, that's
okay.
some really great information we've got. And that's a perfect segue into our Zoom panelists. Vanel, can we hear you now?
You hear me now?
Yes,
you all hear
we
me now?
can. Hey, success.
Okay, thank you all. Good morning to everyone. Thank you all for enduring with us. As we know, the pandemic has brought change to all of our lives, just like the technology. We had challenges, and change will present challenge. And so in this segment, we're talking about how the pandemic, as entrepreneurs, how can we survive the pandemic, and how did the pandemic cause us, or how can it cause us to reconnect, which means to come back together with our very own family. we do understand that the family is the structure and the foundation of all of our existence. And the reason why we have become as successful as we are striving to be as entrepreneurs is because we have a structure. But because of the disturbance in this worldwide pandemic, it caused a disarrayment or a foundational break from what we were used to. And so the first thing I want to talk about is, as an entrepreneur, how we reconnect with our family is we all had to reconstruct. We had to restructure. We all had to restructure what we were used to. We established our SOPs, our standard operating procedures. We established our bylaws, the way we function and run our companies. But when this pandemic came, there was a challenge of a shutdown, which affected our finances. It affected the flow of operation. It affected everything. So there must be a foundational restructure. So what it did is forced us, it pulled us or pushed us back home to the family, which was the original foundation. What does that tell me? Even as entrepreneurs, we get so caught up in trying to structure our companies so that we can make provision for our loved ones, that we actually allow the foundation of our families to crack. Because before the pandemic, some of us had gotten so used to working our companies that we would eat dinner in separate rooms. Maybe the man is in the bedroom watching TV, the mother's on the couch, the children on the floor. But the pandemic pulled us back together to restructure this thing, to say, wait a minute, my structure is not as sound as I left it or thought it was. But it took the panic of change to make me realize, or to make us realize, that we have become public success, yet private failures. In the privacy of our own homes, there's began to be a leak in the building or a crack in the structure. So we had to come back and restructure and say, wait a minute, 7 o'clock is dinner. Everybody come together. Everybody pray together if they believe in that. Everybody come back together at the dinner table and then say, what's going on in your life? What's going on in your life, wife? What's going on in your wife, husband? In your life, what's going on in your life, children? So we can reconstruct and restructure the strength of our family. We are just living in our own mind and our own time without the structure of the family. We are not legacies until we restructure and leave the inheritance to the children, to the wives, so that they can carry on what we build and strive for. So number one, we must restructure the foundation, understanding that it had to start somewhere, no matter how big nor small. The second thing is we have to refocus as entrepreneurs. We had to refocus when the pandemic hit, because things couldn't run as normal. Just like the technology today, we would normally be in the presence of one another, but I'm here in Dallas, Texas, and you all are in Phoenix or wherever you're from. And the fact of the matter is we had to make changes and not give up on the challenges. So we had to look at things in a different perspective to understand that if I want to continue to be a successful company, a successful business, and do what I'm desiring and designed to do, then I must refocus and look at things differently. I cannot stay stuck in the same mentality and see things the same way visibly. The third thing is we must not only restructure, refocus, but we have to relearn. So that means we have to go back, even at home, and relearn our own children. When this pandemic hit and they shut schools down, and I was like, oh my God, now I have to go back to school. I have my degrees, I have my certifications, I have my documentation. I did the work, I put in the time, but now I have to relearn what school looked like, helping my son, my children on Zoom, helping them, watching them, trying to obtain and then maintain what I obtained, and then try to go back and pull what I remember. And things have really changed when it comes to school. A is still A, B is still B, 1 + 2 is still 3, but sometimes it looks like 1 + 2 = 5. Oh my God. So we have to revisit revision and relearn what we forgot. We forgot how to say, baby, I'm proud of you. We forgot how to say, mama, what's going on in your life? We forgot to say, children, what's going on in school? So thank you so much that we all in our companies and in our families and our homes reconnect, come back together, spend quality time just as much, because as Louise said, whatever you give added value to its original worth, it becomes your master. And if you're not careful, it will replace your mate. My last book that I wrote was called Learning How to Balance Between My Master and My Mate. And that's one of our problems, even as entrepreneurs. We have to juggle rather than learning how to balance. So thank you all for the challenge of change. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this auspicious occasion that we will continue to go forward. Thank you.
Again, thank you to the panel.
So thank you, family panel. We hope that we have given everyone something to think about and ways to stop worrying during this chaotic period of time. Last year, the WBC were focused on the conflicts arising from the differences in generations in the workplace. This year, the new challenges that we face in business and as business leaders are things like hiring, to managing, to retention, to telling people where to go. The next panel will address how to maintain productivity in the post-pandemic world. It is moderated by WBC Associate Dr. Vernette Joseph, the leader of the Live to Produce, a well-known public speaker and an internationally recognized ambassador of civility.
I'm going to need you guys to talk back to me a little bit. I know that we're social distancing and doing all of that great stuff. That is phenomenal. But in order for this panel to actually be engaging for you, I'm going to need a little talk back. Good morning, everyone. How are you?
Good morning.
Outstanding, outstanding. Thank you again, Lynn, for the panel on family. Now I want to talk to you guys about productivity in a post-pandemic world. To summarize what we'll be talking about today, the objectives will be employee productivity from structured disciplines and innovative solutions, managing work from home, or what we would call work from anywhere, and explore and navigate what we would call the generational divide, and then executive collaboration and ingenuity, and also racial equality. I'd like to actually bring up a good friend of mine and let them begin to summarize to you these different topics. But before doing so, I'd like this panel to actually show you, by a good friend of ours, Ms. Delmar Johnson, an actual video that we'll be playing talking about how to manage working from home. After that video, myself and Jerron will have a seat at the table so that you can be a fly on the wall on and in the conversation. Do we have Delmar's video? All right, check this out.
Appreciate the extension of the invitation
We'll get just
to
a little
join
bit
you
more volume.
This year for sustaining business in chaotic times. How do we do that? And today I'm going to be talking just a few minutes today and presenting to you managing working from home, finding balance between work and home. I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to get straight to it because I want to appreciate the time that I have to share with you all today. So we're going to cover 3 things today. 1, steps to take for yourself. Number 2, steps for your family and friends. And number 3, I'm going to round it out with some steps employers can take when they're managing remote workers. So we know without a doubt the world has changed and normal has left the building. An undisputed reality for every household, business, and employees across the landscape of humanity trying to find balance. We have entered into a new dimension of normal. But according to the Gallup panel data, as of mid-April, the remote worker population had leveled off at 62%. That's a large percentage when you think about all of the working age individuals that are out in the workforce right now. So 62%, it had leveled off about 6 months ago. Finding the balance between working and home can be challenging. We all know that, but it's not impossible when you have the right boundaries in place. Now, statistics tells us there is no need to fear the new normal, okay, quotation marks, the new normal. According to workspace provider IWG, 85% of businesses confirm that productivity has increased in their company because of greater flexibility. And flexibility has always been something that employees have wanted. Now, the flexibility came on the heels of a pandemic and issues that are going on in the world right now. However, the productivity and having the flexibility to do that after we've all adjusted to remote working, whether that's in our business, in the corporations or organizations that we work in, we've gotten more used to it over the last 6 or 7 months, and productivity is still high, which is a good thing. So we don't necessarily have to fear this new normal. So let's jump into the first point I wanted to cover. Steps to take by yourself. These are things that you need to take accountability for and do for yourself to set you up for success as a remote employee. And these are going to be very practical steps. The first step is follow a schedule. Now, that may not be so easy in your household, but in order to have a level of productivity for yourself every day and to be more organized, following a schedule is definitely one of those practical steps that will benefit all of us. Those of us who've been working remotely for a while and still adjusting, still pivoting and shifting how we need to, and those of you all that may be a little newer to the remote working environment. So follow a schedule. Create a start and an end time for your day, and create flexibility in between there, which we're going to talk about right now. So follow a schedule, set up a start time and an end time. Take your most challenging task and attack those where you have the highest energy of the day, and it's the peak time of how you get things done during the day. All right. So take your toughest challenges first, and then kind of wind down on those things that you can kind of knock out toward the end of the day. Another thing you want to do is actually design an office. That office space could be in the corner of your bedroom. That office space could be in an empty room that you hadn't used in a while, or maybe a room that's, you just kind of throw some junk in there. We all have a junk room in our home, right? Throw some junk in there, but you can clean it out, straighten it up, organize it so it can be more fluid for how you're needing to work in your office. Again, whether you are a business owner or you're still in corporate America, being able to find those spaces in your home and actually designating that spot where you're going to work every day, following the schedule that you've made from point one, all right? So you want to design an office space that is conducive to how you work and that is comfortable for you. Another thing you want to do is change clothes. Now, I'm sure I'm not the only one that's guilty of, putting on the top and then maybe having pajama bottoms on, all right? But I don't know how many of you all saw that gentleman that was on a news outlet not too long ago, earlier in the season of this year. And he did not put on any pants. He had on a jacket, a shirt, and a tie, got through the interview, and before he got off, I guess he repositioned himself, and it hit the viral internet streets where he didn't have on any bottoms. So at least if you have on pajama bottoms, you're doing good. But I suggest that you actually change all of your clothes to really create the kind of energy that you need as though you were in the office. Limit distractions. Now, that's not always easy because there's a lot of distractions that are going on. Some of you all have school-aged children, right? Some of you all may be living by yourself or just with you and your spouse or your significant other. But you want to limit the distractions of social media, being on the internet too much, watching too much TV, Netflix and chill, so you want to get to a point where you're limiting the distractions, especially during your prime working hours. In the evening time, we kind of relax ourselves, kind of chill out a little bit in the evening. But during your work hours, make sure that you are limiting your distractions. Then, of course, take breaks. take breaks. We're sitting in front of computers all day. We're on the phone. We're sending messages. The phone is ringing off the hook. We're having meetings. All kind of things are going on. But at some point, it's going to be important for you to take a break during those working hours. Maybe I'm by myself in saying this, but a lot of times my working hours are in the evening because I am an entrepreneur, full-time entrepreneur, so I can separate my time, those working hours in the daytime, and then I have evening hours that I also work before I close everything down for the day. It doesn't always work with having as many breaks as I would like, but it's important to actually incorporate those breaks, 1 or 2 breaks during your high energy time of the day that you're really pumping out work. But at some point, maybe have a cup of tea, step outside and get some natural vitamin D from the sun, and just stand there and just absorb the beauty of the day, just to re-energize yourself, to kind of loosen up a little bit, kind of stretch and everything. Take a break, take a mental break, in particularly from all the hustle and bustle that can happen even as a remote worker, and being at home or being in an office that's away from your home, but you're still working as a remote worker. So those are 5 insights I wanted to give to you about the things that you need to do for yourself. Now let's kind of switch gears and talk about the steps to take with family, friends, and your colleagues. Number 1, talk to your boss. It will be easier to balance your life when you and your boss, agree on the overall expectations, Negotiate the flexibility you need to succeed. Now, with remote working, flexibility should be a part of that. And we've learned that over the last 6 or 7 months that it is really critical for flexibility to still be built in. But you have to have a conversation and communicate with your boss. Post your hours. Let people know your prime working hours, that you are in the thrust of getting things done, getting things checked off of your responsibility and accountability list for the day. So post those hours. When you communicate with your boss, or maybe with a business partner, let them know the hours that you're going to be working for the day that's going to be productive for you.
So as we've been listening to Ms. Del Mar, I hope that you are picking up on some vital things that will help you. I think so far she has given us 7 different points from 2 different perspectives. And what I hope that everybody is actually gleaning from is this: everyone's life was turned upside down. Whether you were an entrepreneur or whether you were sent home because there was not enough time for you to work from your regular location due to social distancing, or the building being shut down due to the pandemic. But the question that I have for everyone today is, how are you managing working from home? And have you heard of the work from anywhere concept? The work from anywhere concept has been adopted by Google and companies like Amgen. I can tell you right now that Amgen has already told its employees that they will not come back to the office until July 2021. So the question for you as entrepreneurs, business owners, CEOs, C-suite executives is, what are you doing and what is the policy that you will put in place for your organization? So I hope that you all are able to see the rest of Del Mar's video on the app and later on throughout the conference. I don't want to belabor the time. Now I'd like to introduce a good friend of mine, Jerron Bettison Clark. He is going to help us understand the perspective of younger employees in the workplace, and he will continue to educate us about the generational divide. Jerron.
Test. All right, it's kind of odd. All right, cool. Can you hear me now? So, as stated, I am here to talk about the generational divide, as well as some tech tips to help you stay productive with you and your organization. Some of these are repeats from what Ms. Del Mar spoke of, but I will be saying them from a different perspective. One of the first things that I do recommend as far as productivity is that all of your employees or anyone that you work with, they take typing tests, and they should type at least 40 words per minute. That's pretty non-negotiable if you ask me. Anything less than that, you may be accepting mediocrity. Just for context, I'm at about 79 words per minute, and I think that's subpar. I think I should be at about 90 or 100. I mean, I'm about to be 30, like, what's going on? So definitely typing tests, freetypingtest.com. It's easy to remember because it's free and it's freetypingtest.com. Second thing is that I would recommend you look at your digital assets. So if there's any, I'll use two examples. The first one is if you're a writer, if you write, you know that you can use iCloud Notes, you can use Notepad, you can use Microsoft Office, you can use Google Docs, you can use Evernote or some third-party application, or you can use Scrivener. Each one of those is specific for what you're doing. Obviously, we know why Microsoft Office or Google Docs may be available, but if you're writing more of a screenplay or a book or something, Scrivener may be the best option. And so another example for that would be, as far as business, you may have Skype or you could use Zoom. But the thing is, you want to make sure that you're not paying for both services, or you're paying for something that, again, like the writing example, even though that may get the job done, there may be something more specific for your organization that helps with productivity. Also with that, Ms. Delmar kind of mentioned that about posting office hours. I do recommend having office hours, but also what you can do for friends and family. If you have an iPhone, you can turn your phone on Do Not Disturb driving mode, and you can customize that message. So if someone texts you while you're in driving mode, it'll automatically bounce back and say, hey, I'm doing X, Y, and Z right now, blah, blah, blah. So definitely recommend that, but it's not too hard to set up, but you will have to add them to a certain subgroup, so that way when you turn on the driving mode versus regular Do Not Disturb, they get that kickback message. So then the third or fourth thing, they kind of intertwine, so I may go back and forth, is investing in the culture of technology. So this would be kind of hard to explain, but I'll try to explain it. It's a visceral concept, trying to make it very analog. If there are any young people in the room, Girlfriends just got added to Netflix, and so a lot of people have been watching that, and the conversation of making a list and you're finding a significant other came up, and a close friend of mine said that she doesn't have to make a list, she just has to find someone who loves them as much as I love technology, which is a pretty good concept. And so the thing is, though, is I don't worship technology, I don't idolize technology, but I understand the value of technology and what it brings to my life and how much it can improve my life. And so the thing is, you have to be able to personify that and show your team that through however unique way you do that. So that's where it kind of gets tricky. I do have some use cases depending on your niche, so I may be able to help. An example of that is a unique way is if you're in construction, if you're in engineering, if you're in public policy, things of that nature. I would recommend having your team play SimCity Build It. It helps with all those things. It's a unique, fun team building exercise, but they're also using technology, understanding the value of technology without being complicated. When it comes to the generational divide, I'll backtrack a little bit. So from a culture perspective, the generational divide is getting thinner. It's at a neutral point, so don't shoot me, I'm just a messenger. In the beginning of Corona, there was this phrase from young people. I was just as frustrated when I heard it, but they would make fun of Corona saying that it's the boomer remover, right? Obviously, that's not something. If you have that problem in your organization, I recommend talking to HR. I'm not necessarily here for that aspect of it. But going back to investing in the culture of technology, we're at a great point, but no one wants to, and I'm not being stereotypical here, but no one wants to wait, 20 minutes for someone to set up their Zoom camera or things like that. Of course, those little things will disrupt your organization, but as long as everyone understands the culture of technology, and this is where also understanding your digital assets comes into play, because there should be a seamless flow of technology, and that, again, increases productivity like crazy. I can go from my computer to my iPad to my phone seamlessly, and I notice my productivity has skyrocketed. And so then finally, just a few investments that you may or may not want to make in your team. One I do highly recommend if they're going to stay remote is investing in blue blockers. If you don't have them, they are glasses that filter the blue light technology that comes from screens. You can get some on Amazon. You can get a pack of 2 for about $10. The only thing is they come in 2 different colors, so maybe your team will have to fight over those. But the difference is amazing. Imagine if you were getting a massage while you were working. That's what it does for your eyes. So highly recommend those 1,000%. And then also I'm not on Apple's payroll, but I do recommend maybe investing in an iPad Air for your team, the newest version that just came out. That one, again, I don't want to go on a 20-minute rant about how much technology impacts, but this will most likely improve your productivity. It'll improve your creativity. Apple has an enterprise program, so you won't be paying the consumer $700 for the device. And so, of course, it depends how many you order. But let's say hypothetically you pay about $550. I can almost guarantee you'll make quadruple that. You'll make at least $2,000 back in productivity, creativity by investing in your team with that. But if you don't want to do that, I would challenge you to at least stop by your local school district, see if there's at least one student that can benefit from a Chromebook, because that definitely has, this corona situation has definitely impacted students. There was a documentary on PBS Frontline called Growing Up Poor, and it focused on how the COVID impacted, poor communities, but more so from the perspective of the children. So the financial aspect aside, it really highlighted how much this pandemic disrupted the school system. I mean, some students don't have laptops, and it's a $300, $400 investment. You could write it off as a tax write-off. But just definitely challenge you to do that, if nothing else. And so with that, I will give it back.
Absolutely. I hope that you all are picking up what Jerron and Delmar are actually putting down. What we want you to understand is this. How are we going to be productive post-pandemic? We're still actually in the pandemic. There's a lot of innovation and ingenuity that has come out of the pandemic. You heard that on the family panel. No, corona hasn't been the worst thing that we've ever seen. It may have been the first thing that has touched us globally. And what we need to do is start to look for innovative solutions to our actual problems. So what I hope that you're picking up right now is that we're not just here to talk to you so that you can hear us talk. We're here to actually give you solutions. Solutions that you can take back to your organization or to your individual business that will help your employees actually begin to interact, engage, and begin to give you what we like to call peak performance. One of the things I want to share with you as you talk about productivity, it's about effectiveness and it's about efficiency. It's not about tasks. It's not about checking off a list. It's about getting the right things done in the less amount of time that you possibly can. It's about empowering your people, your individuals, your employees to bring out the best in them and help them to see their vision within your vision. One thing that I know for sure is when someone comes to work, if the environment and the culture is right and ripe, then you will get productivity every single time. So now that we are actually working from home, the question is, how can they be productive? Delmar gave you quite a few things for that. And now we talked about some of the tech side of actually being productive. There are apps, there are pieces of software, there's equipment that can help you to be more productive. There's speech dictations, there's all kind of things. And as I've said before, we have more technology in our phones today than it took to put people on the moon. So you can actually run a business, and I have, worldwide from this cell phone here. So when we begin to talk about productivity in the workforce, but productivity from our employees from home, whether we're in the pandemic or post-pandemic, the key is creativity, the key is discipline, the key is structure, and the key is order. So as CEOs, what are you doing to help your individuals to be more productive for the bottom line of your organization? So integrated workplace skills. We want our people to know what we need, but if you don't tell your people what you need, they cannot provide it for you. You cannot expect what you do not inspect, so you have to have integrative workplace skills. The evolved role. Listen, an executive assistant's role will forever change because your needs will continue to change. Now, this word right here is a little bit difficult for me because I don't believe in balance, but Ms. Melba says work-life balance. If I can adjust that just a little bit, Ms. Melba, I would say it would be work-life harmony, because balance Balance indicates that there's a stronghold on one side with more weight, more tension, or whatever the case may be, and what we're really looking for is harmony. We want you to be able to walk it out, work it out, and live it out. And from the executive standpoint, if you can model this, then so can your people. Next slide, please. 3 core characteristics: accountability, trust, and adaptability. In this world, we have all got to be accountable to someone. Your employees have to be able to trust you, your vision, your mission, and know that you have their best interest at heart. And adaptability, as a military officer, I've got to tell you, everything is not going to go your way. So you have to be prepared to adjust, you have to be prepared to adapt, and you have to be prepared to pivot. Next slide, please. How do you become? It's very simple. Critical thinking. Critical thinking. You become by critical thinking because you don't know what the next hill looks like. You don't know what the next curve looks like. So you have to be ready. You have to have critical thinking, thinking on your feet and being able to accomplish the task. Next slide, please. Indispensable skills, as we just talked about: mission critical, future focused, multidisciplinary learning, adaptability. Make no assumptions. Make no assumptions. Get the answer and execute the task. Process innovation. Next slide, please. The 21st century executive assistant looks a little bit like this, and this is how the role has evolved. It's all about structure, innovation, and partnership. One of the things that I teach is relationship is the new currency. Collaboration is the way of the world, and partnerships is how you move forward, which you see right here: structure, innovation, and partnership. You cannot be who you are sitting in these seats today if you didn't learn these 3 steps or processes. Next slide, please. 21st century executive assistant, here's the continuous roles. We're looking at support specialist, we're looking at manager, communications expert, and then, of course, the executive assistant and partnership. Every organization needs this from top to bottom. This is the circle, if you would, the 360-degree effect that you need within your organization. Next slide, please. The executive as a business partner. Many people may not understand this, but you may be the CEO, but honestly, you're not the one that makes it happen. You may give the instructions and you may give the vision casting, but you are not the person that makes it happen. It is important and imperative for you to give to the lowest level, the lowest degree, the vision. Any organization that is still standing for 50+ years or more, I guarantee you the vision from the head is the vision at the bottom, and that's what it's all about. Having boots on ground with everyone on the same playing field. So the executive role, goals, and personal mission. Role, goals, and personal mission. It's all about the roles, goals, and personal mission. You will set those boundaries, but you have to have good lines of communication. And those things have to be agreed upon. That's where the work habits come, and that's where the mutual expectation can actually move forward. And anyone new to your organization will have to fall in line, and if they don't, they will show up and show out immediately. Bad apple, time to go. Very simplistic, would you say? All right, next slide. Performance. Let me just highlight this: experience, competencies, personal attributes, and knowledge. That's what you need to know. If you're expecting to get performance from your people, that's what they need to know. If you don't look for these things on the front end, then you're already going to have problems. But if you sift and filter from this lens, almost 99% of the time, you're going to have a great employee that's willing to run with you for an extended period of time. No matter where you see me in the community or anywhere in the world, you're going to get the same person that's sitting up here on this panel today, because I live my mission statement, and that's what you want from your employees.
Wow, what a presentation. I'd like to personally thank Dr. Burnett and his team, Melba and Jerron and Ms. Del Mar. Thank you for joining us today. All right. would like to welcome Ron Williams, CEO of Contacts to Contracts. That tells us something about his talent. And Arizona. Ron?
Thank you, Ariel. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our session, Recovery and Retention of Clients Post-Pandemic. Thank you for the introduction. Also on the panel with me, I have Cameron Robb, and she's going to introduce herself a little bit later. She's from the Greater Phoenix Economic Council. Give you a little bit about myself so you can kind of understand the lens that I'm speaking from today, and I will ask Cameron to do that as well. And I'll make it real short. I am a U.S. Air Force veteran, service-disabled veteran, Desert Storm era veteran, and for 6 years, I ran the local Arizona chapter of the National Minority Supply Development Council, and we're very happy to have in the room my good friend who ran the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And also, 6 years of doing that, I also started Contacts to Contracts back in 2009. And basically what I did was take the combination of experiences that I had running 3 different business development agencies. One was the Arizona Procurement Technical Assistance Network, where I effectively helped Arizona companies win and compete government contracts. Because I was a contracting officer with the federal government, I knew all of the steps, all of the secrets, all of the secret sauce to make that happen. So very successful. It was the top-rated program in the Department of Defense. I went from there and became director of the Arizona Native American Business Development Center, working with 16 tribes across Arizona and outside of Arizona. A very successful program. Spent some time at the City of Phoenix in their business relations section, and then ultimately ran the Arizona chapter of the Minority Council, working with Fortune 500 companies, helping diverse businesses get in the door and help them understand how to get those contracts with those Fortune 500 organizations. So that is my lens. So clearly, you can see that my expertise is in business development, right? Creation, business development. So the retention and the recovery, I did a little research. So we'll share some of that research with you today. So Cameron Robb, share with the audience who you are. Tell them about yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Ron. It's nice to be here. I have to say, you know, Denise has been such a motivator. She's such an inspiration, and I love the way that she's able to gather people. But this is the first time that I've had to wear a coat or anything like that, like in months. And I remember someone once told me that I committed professional suicide because I wore jeans to a meeting. And when I think about what I can do in sweatpants today, but, you know, I mean, I feel like so much of the optics of how we're supposed to work versus how we're actually working tells a great story. So a little bit about my background. I'm a native Phoenician, born and raised here, and I've lived in New York and LA, but I boomeranged back and had a 17-year career in higher education. Actually, the last 5 years were spent here at ASU, and I was in the business of talent. So I managed all of the employer relationships across all 19 colleges and schools here to try to help plug in interns, MBAs, graduates, alumni. And so it was through that kind of labor lens that I became acquainted with the Greater Phoenix Economic Council, and that's where I am now. So I'm a senior director on the business development team, and essentially our mission is to attract and grow quality business in the region and to advocate for our competitiveness. So we do that through kind of a trifecta model of marketing and strategy and business development. And so what we were doing, let's say this time last year, looks very different from how we're operating business today. But as Jonathan mentioned, it's incredible the amount of prospects that are coming and taking a look at Arizona. So one of the things that I can share with you is there was a softening, obviously, in March and in April, but we have picked up the pace to such a degree that we're actually probably 10 prospects over where we were this time last month or last year. which is kind of remarkable when you think about the fact that a lot of people have not been traveling. They're still looking at where they can cost optimize, where they can access a wide, talented workforce. You know, we've got modern infrastructure, great connectivity, we don't have natural disasters, so we're really competitive in a lot of ways. And since COVID-19, we've been very deep in our response to the pandemic locally. And so even though our mission is to go external to the market and bring business in, when everything slowed down, we had to really take a look at our communities, because the way that GPEC works is we're a nonprofit organization. And so we are, you know, really bolstered by our public and private partnerships. And so we serve 22 member, you know, cities and towns, all 22 cities that make up the region, which, by the way, is 73% of the state's economy. So Maricopa County is the fastest growing county in the nation and has been for 5 years in a row, and of course we're the 5th largest city. So you take a look at that growth that's happening externally, we also work internationally. We had to really, and what, I'm just going to do a quick pulse of the audience here. What is the most overused word of 2020? Pivot? Everybody's pivoting. But it's true. We had to really take a look at what we were doing to serve our local communities, and so we came up with an immediate response to the pandemic, and we opened up chat lines, we opened up resources, we had our COO work with big banks in town to create literally kind of what a mock application would be for those CARES Act funds and the PPP loan program, so we could go straight to the businesses within our region, because you may know this already, but the small to medium business group represents 99% of our economy in the region. So when we think about how hard some of those businesses have been hit, we stepped in immediately to try to keep them lifted up, encouraged, you know, optimize whatever resources they had access to, and so we became, you know, kind of a body for them to go to for resources. So, you know, that's really where we are now as far as helping our local businesses thrive. But as Jonathan mentioned, we do have over 240 active prospects external to the market looking at either relocating or expanding. And so that's really what we're looking at, is how to balance, you know, this demand for industrial space versus keeping the activity alive in the office sector when that picture is completely different. I think, you know, we've heard from a lot of people about 30%, maybe 25% have returned to work, but everybody else is still cozy at home.
Well, we've all heard the stories of the jacket on top and the boxer shorts on the bottom. This is real. So thank you for that, Cameron. Let me just share with you, in business development area, you know, in my military and private sector experiences, I've helped companies win over $100 billion in contracts. So having said that, I look at my own situation when it comes to this subject that we're talking about. I own a restaurant at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport, right? And we knew that as long as we didn't have another 9/11, we were going to be fine. We knew exactly what our revenue was going to be before we opened our doors. The research was there, it was clear. When COVID hit, we were not prepared. We simply were not prepared. All the contingency plans, all the recovery plans that were in place, we were not prepared. So consequently, we closed the doors, right? And so we've gone through this process, working through City Council and our funders, right, to kind of reopen the doors just recently. So just know that there's no magic bullet as we kind of go through this information as far as recovery and retention of clients. There's no magic bullet. So I'm going to share with you a little information. Victor Ho, the CEO of 5 Stars, and the Forbes council members shared that in neighborhoods across the country, small businesses tie the community together. They serve as gathering places for friends and celebration and provide jobs for locals and character to their neighborhood, brings character. COVID-19 flipped these communities upside down in a matter of weeks, right? We know small business owners nationwide are not only beginning to understand the lingering impacts of the pandemic and just how much we'll need to adjust operations. It could take months, if not years, for small businesses to adapt to this new normal. Fortunately, their loyal customers wait eagerly for reopenings because for many, these local shops once offered a sense of home. Now, the researchers and the powers that be, as far as us restaurateurs at the airport, the research was clear, and we just had to live with the fact that we will not get back up to 2019 levels at the airport until 2023. So, meaning that although we did our best to retain our employees, we went broke trying to make sure that they had food on the table for their families, but we did that. It was important for us to do that because we knew that retaining our customers, retaining our employees was really important because they were the key to retaining those repeat customers that come through the airport. You know, people think it's a captive audience for restaurants owners at the airport, but that's not necessarily true. You still have to bring that over-the-top customer service and that great experience for them each and every time they visit you. So, and also in this research said to recover from the punch of today's global pandemic, enhancing relationships with loyal, returning customers is key. Here are 3 reasons why I believe in investing in retaining customers over acquiring new ones is such a valuable avenue for small business owners. So I'm going to go through the 3 areas that small business recovery lies. 3 reasons why small business recovery relies on customer retention, not acquisition. And again, clearly my background is in business development. I just want you to really, truly understand that. I'm not a recovery and retention specialist by no means. So as moderator, again, I had to do my homework so that we can have a discussion about this. Returning customers offer a return on investment, right? During the global pandemic, having positive relationship with customers is proven its importance. So if you waited till the pandemic to try to, get raving fine, have your customers become raving customers, that is not the time. So me sharing this now with you, I don't know how valuable that is, but that should have been done on the front end. All the great things that you do to retain your clients now, you're still going to have to do that during this pandemic period. So these regular customers don't simply show up and help boost business when sales are low. Studies show that they are the ones driving most business profits because they spend more at a higher frequency than new customers do, right? According to an Adobe report, about 40% of a business's revenue comes from repeat customers. We know that, right? Comes from repeat customers who represent only 8% of all visitors. For context, it takes 5 new customers to equal the amount it takes 5 new customers to equal the amount one repeat customer spends in an average transaction. So, Bain & Company released a study showing that a simple 5% increase in retention can result in a profit of 25% or more. That's why retaining these loyal customers can offer a high return on investment. Number 2, returning customers help a business predict needs. Returning customers make it easier to predict income flow and inventory because small businesses can learn from their purchase history through point-of-sale integrations offered by minute payment companies. While sporadic insights from new customers can say a thing or two about effectiveness of a marketing strategy, when it comes to actually growing a business, consistency is key. If insights from returning customers are gathered and analyzed, stores can spot trends and adapt their offerings to run a more efficient operation. So that's number 2. Returning customers, number 3, returning customers are low-cost marketing targets. I think we could all agree. So I won't sugarcoat it. If loyal customers spend more than new ones, the reality is most of the country is on a tight budget and spending less right now. So what I've been able to do successfully through my company, Contacts to Contracts, which takes all of my experiences, and I've been able to bring on some great partners, experts in their field, to leverage those relationships. And we knew we weren't anticipating a pandemic, but we knew that strengthening those partnerships and relationships and strategic partnerships is really how you grow. It's really how you put your roots in the ground so that when the wind blows, your roots are strong and your business just doesn't get wiped out. So you want to jump in with anything else, Cameron?
I do, and I appreciate that because I think what you've laid out are some pretty good nuggets for how to sustain a business. And if it helps to provide a sense of optimism, just considering that that can be hard to do during a pandemic, meaning get new customers and so forth, I just want to let you know that, Arizona is expecting much better, or experiencing much better results than we expected. So, we're currently the third lowest in the nation for GDP performance, and we're already back about 60% in terms of job recovery. So we're getting back. And, when it comes to, and I'm sorry about, your shop at the airport, because that's tough, and that's really been the pain of everything that we've experienced as a community together. I feel like any business that goes under or is experiencing that type of, cramp or shutdown, we all feel that. And so I would just plug that if you have the means and you can support local, and by local, that money stays here and it generates more wealth for our local economy. So, the big boxes are doing fine. And if we can inject our spending into local business, that's what's going to keep our region thriving. But, the consumer confidence in September shot up big time. So we've seen the largest gain in consumer spending in September than we have since the pandemic began. As a matter of fact, the state experienced $146 million in revenues, which was above the June forecast. So, yeah, that's right. Thanks for that. I think it's good for everybody. And as far as, travel is concerned, this is our prime time. October to March, this is when we're at our peak time. The snowbirds start coming in. This is when we're used to the event season starts, our most beautiful weather. Thank God we're under 3 digits. But our hotel occupancy the first week of October increased 54%. 54%. So our hotels are getting back. Sky Harbor is still seeing 25,000 passengers per day. Granted, it's 60% lower than where we were this time last year, but we're still seeing some positive momentum. So, I think the other thing kind of on the tourist front, because one of the last things I did was go to a spring training game. And before that, it was attend a conference in Atlanta, and I was traveling back home the day that we were declared a pandemic, and then that Monday I never went back to work, much like I'm sure many of you. But, that was a big shock to our tourism industry because the games were stopped, all the basketball, all the baseball, it all just ended, which is a crisis in itself. But what we're seeing now is that after 2 decades worth of bidding to host the women's NCAA Final Four, we got it. We got the bid. That's right. So this is going to be a major boost to our tourism economy, which means that and it's going to be for 2026. Let me throw that out there. It's not like next year, but it's going to be April 2026 that we're holding the Women's Final Four. These are the stories that I think that we need to remind ourselves that business is still coming, events are still happening, people are starting to travel, and yet I think we've also been educated enough and informed enough to know that we're seeing a slight spike in Arizona. So we were a hotbed. We had more cases than any in the country at some point in April, I think. And so here we are in October. We've done really well. We were able to reopen. Now we're seeing a little bit of an uptick. We're getting into cold and flu season, so we have to protect ourselves. And thanks, Denise, for having those custom masks. So I guess if you want to get one of those, but I'm seeing most everybody masked up, which is a comfort. And we just have to keep doing our part. So as long as we can spend locally, mask up, protect each other, then we'll be able to sustain the business and the wealth in our economy.
I'm glad you shared that information, Cameron. I serve on the board of an organization called Visit Mesa. And we are the tourism and marketing wing for Mesa and some other East Valley partners that we have. So I know that thinking about my businesses, one of my businesses, when I talk about, before we move into service recovery, you know, you try to plan for all the contingencies. One of my companies, I rely heavily on my business partner. I have no expertise in that area of business that we run it in. And so I relied heavily on him and his expertise and knowledge to run that company. And guess what happened? March 2020, he got COVID. And so when he went to the emergency room, didn't come out for months later, he actually, you know, in the process of getting through it, 2 heart attacks and coming out of the coma and getting, now he is, God, thank you God, he is home and recovering. Thank you. But business stopped. You know, orders are still coming in, but there was no one to service them because we didn't have a contingency plan. He had all of that he was, you know, overseeing all of that. But, you know, the business is still making money, and we haven't done a thing with it. It's just, you know, it's on a cycle. So, so we know that contingency plans, recovery, and retention is so important. So let's look at service recovery. I think we got about 10 minutes. Service recovery, 5 golden rules of customer retention, and we know that service recovery is not sexy. So every company makes mistakes that could make them lose customers. We all can agree on that. I don't care what business you're in, something will go wrong, but companies know how to recover a customer and turn them into loyal customers for life. And I know that my restaurant at the airport, we empowered every single employee to fix a wrong. Doesn't matter if we were right or wrong. If their customer felt that something wasn't right, we took it on ourselves to apologize immediately, and they would fix it. They were empowered to do whatever they need to do, whether it was another beverage, whether it was another sandwich, or whatever the case may be. And yes, they would notify me later, but they were empowered to do that because, and I can't tell you how many times, I would say probably not all of them, but I would say probably 50% of those customers found the time to reach out to me, even though my number wasn't publicly available to them. They found me and said, thank you for fixing that. I was, you know, if you hadn't done that, I would not come back to your restaurant at the airport. So just show you how critically important that is. And how, let's see, the problems are only getting worse thanks to social media. We know that people will quickly jump on social media if they have a bad experience. They're not so quick to jump on social media when they have a good experience. They may jump on social media if they have a great experience. Good, they might. Great, they'll probably do that. But if they have a bad experience, you betcha they're gonna get on there. And I'm just amazed that we haven't, in any of my companies, haven't had, I would say probably 0.001% of bad experiences. And as soon as I see one, I get on the phone, I'll find them. I'll track them down and offer what I can do to fix it. And it just makes a big difference, especially coming from the executive of the company. So, again, the problem only gets worse thanks to social media. As customers aren't happy, they'll post a problem on Twitter and Facebook. They'll do it fast. Then you have a massive public relations problem that will take time, effort, and money to fix. Boom. Instead of handling problems quickly and efficiently, most employees, and I hope you all know this, will pass the buck or even lie. That's because people don't like confrontation. Instead of saying they messed up, they may say the product was shipped or anything just to kind of pass the buck. So we know that. Companies spend a fortune on marketing, but they don't spend a dime. Not everybody. I know not the people in this room. But they don't spend a dime teaching frontline employees to keep the customer from defecting. Wouldn't it be better to spend that money on training employees to handle problems in the first place? And for me and my business partners, training our employees was big, walking through the door. We said, this is what we're going to do. We know it's important, and we did that. The most important person is the person who has direct contact with the customer. Unhappy customers won't call the company president. They will walk to whoever is in the store or whoever answers the phone. Those people need to follow the 5 golden rules of customer retention. They are: apologize and offer a better option. For example, you might offer expedited delivery at a company's expense. Act quickly. Number 2, you must respond to the complaint within 60 seconds. That's when the magic happens. Number 3, take responsibility. Most employees shovel the problem off and blame everyone else. Customers know when they are being passed along the chain, and they don't like it. You know it when you're being passed along the chain, and I know you don't like it. So, empower employees to make a fast decision. Each frontline employee should be able to take action quickly. They shouldn't have to ask managers to get an approval or pass the buck to them. Take action. So if you don't have that kind of empowerment with your team members at the lowest level, I really would encourage you to find a way to make that happen. So, number 5, give away something. I saw this and I was like, wow, this is good stuff. Give away something that has high value and low cost. Customers will be pleasantly surprised and delighted with your company if you not only make things right, but make things better. For example, let's say a customer calls to complain about a new computer that has a hard drive crash in the first month. In addition to solving the problem, you might offer an extended warranty. It costs the company nothing, but has a high perceived value for the customer. And I look for some examples while in my research, and 2 of these stuck out. And I'll give you these 2 examples real quick. Outback Steakhouse. If there is any kind of problem, they immediately take care of it. I once had a dirty knife with water stains. I only wanted a new knife. The waiter apologized and brought me a new knife. The manager also came over to apologize. He also offered a free dessert at the cost of about $8, right? The dessert may have cost him only $1, but it meant everything to me. Now I tell thousands of people about my experiences. Those are real-life examples. I'm going to give you one more. Redbox. I recently ordered a DVD movie, but it wouldn't play on my TV. I called them and quickly realized that I ordered the Blu-ray version by mistake. Blu-ray doesn't work on my TV. Even though it was my mistake, they offered me 2 free rentals. What's the cost of 2 DVD rentals to them? Nothing. They turned me into a customer for life. Very few firms understand that. Companies should spend some of their money on customers. Customer retention is all about creating loyalty and a fan base. Customers will come back more often. Their loyalty is greater than when they have experienced service recovery. So again, there's no magic bullet.
Wow, what a great discussion. Congratulations, Arizona, on recovering. And I think all of their information is going to be out on the app. Harry Gerhwal, I hope I have pronounced that correct. He is the CEO of Trine and Associates, along with Robert Theobald, representing our partner, American Commerce Authority, up to the stage.
There's 18 cranes up in downtown Phoenix. That's a lot of business, and I think totally within the greater Phoenix metro area, there's about 32 cranes up and operating. So you know that Phoenix is really a city and a municipality that is on the rise. So we're actually having some discussions right now with the city of Phoenix about private-public partnerships for workforce housing, because we do know that there's right now currently about 164,000 units needed in the city of Phoenix in order to be able to provide adequate housing for the workforce and for our first responders and for our teachers and people that actually work in the Phoenix area. So I'm very proud of the fact that the city of Phoenix is doing a great job in pulling together the resources in order to be able to address even some of the most difficult issues like the homelessness program that's going on right now in downtown Phoenix, working with the other regional offices. So today we're also very, very excited about having Robert here. So let me introduce Robert to you. So Robert Theobald is a small business ombudsman, VP of Small Business Services for the Arizona Commerce Authority. And the Commerce Authority has a really great strategic plan, and looking forward to listening to Robert to know what they're going to be planning on doing, specifically in the small business areas, and also for him to share some insights into the services that they're able to provide. So Robert, welcome.
Thank you, thank you. I will give my background, but it can't match Harry's as far as my experience. But I will share a few things. I've got, my main experience comes from over 20 years in retail management, operations, big box, small box, international. I had a great pleasure of working overseas in Argentina and South America, helping open some stores down there for the company I was working for. And, you know, it was an amazing time. One of my kids was born down there, and it was great to learn the culture, make some great friends as well. And so really enjoyed that. But it wasn't until a few years ago that I kind of found my real calling. Left the retail world and was working for a franchisor based in Scottsdale. And I was working with the franchisees. Once they signed the franchise contract, became a franchisee, I was working with them to develop their business plan, help them find locations, work with different lenders to get the information the lenders needed to get loans. And I really, at that point, realized I loved working with small business owners. And so when the opportunity came up for this position, the Small Business Ombudsman, it was a brand new position in 2018. I saw it, and at the time I was looking for work because that franchisor decided to move their headquarters, and remote work wasn't much of a thing at that point for us. So they moved to Florida, and I stayed in Arizona. So I was looking for this opportunity, and when I saw it, was able to apply for it and got the position, I was really excited. It's been a great 2 years in this role that been all over the state, working with small business owners, working with local community representatives, cities, towns, county representatives, and made some great connections. And a key part of the role as a small business ombudsman is helping small business owners navigate the challenges they may face, maybe with other state agencies, or help connecting them with the resources that are out there. That's a little bit about my background and my role. You know, Harry's got some questions for me we've kind of talked about.
Yeah, you know, is this on? Okay. Yeah, so I moved over here. I felt like I was, you know, all the way across the room from everybody, so I wanted to move over here. One of the things that impressed me when I was having a discussion with Robert last week in our phone call was just to understand better, you know, what the Commerce Authority is really doing and what they're looking at and planning on doing in the future. So I asked Robert if he could just provide to us some of the high-level, you know, pieces of their strategic plan, because as we all know, if you have a great plan, you're going to be able to execute on it. If you execute it, that means you'll be successful with it. And I know that the Commerce Authority, just by the way it got restructured, has really done a good job because they're more almost in the form of a private sector entity versus a government entity. So perhaps you can share some of that, Robert.
Yeah, absolutely. So to share real quick before the strategic plan, a bit about the structure of the Arizona Commerce Authority. It's a unique public-private organization, and we're also the only economic development organization in the country with this type of structure, where we bring the private sector, academia, and all three branches of state government into the business. So our board of directors consists of the chairman is Governor Ducey, and the co-chair, he co-chairs it with someone from the private sector. We have the Senate President and House Speaker on the board of directors. All three public university presidents and Board of Regents presidents are on our board of directors. We have private sector business leaders, community college representatives, county board supervisor representatives, and the ACA president and CEO is on the board of directors. And so through that board, we're able to collaborate and work in all aspects for our state. We have a great relationship with ASU. I've done a number of things in my role with ASU and U of A and NAU, and I work very closely with the community colleges as well. Our main focus is we have a three-tiered approach to what we do, and it's attract, grow, and create. So we try to attract new businesses to come into Arizona, and that's where our business attraction and business expansion teams work. trying to bring in those companies. You've heard of some of them, Nikola's, the Lucid Motors. TSMC was mentioned, a $12 billion project, and the only one in North America for that company, for semiconductors. Those are big, out-of-state companies coming into Arizona, bringing high-wage jobs, and we focus on those. The grow part is our business expansion. We work to grow businesses that are within Arizona. Whether they're out-of-state businesses that have a branch here, we try to grow them. We've seen a lot of that lately, where we've had a lot of companies that may have a foundation or a headquarters in Silicon Valley, but they're not growing that headquarters, they're growing their offices in Arizona. Because as Cameron mentioned, our cost of living is much lower, and as we saw on the slides with ASU, we got a great pool of talent here in Maricopa County with ASU. Down in Pima County, we've got the great talent coming out of University of Arizona, and then Northern Arizona has NAU. We also have GCU and a number of other small universities throughout the state that do a great job. And then our create. We also want to create new businesses. So over the past decade, we've been running the Arizona Innovation Challenge, which is a premier business plan competition for innovative and tech companies. And part of that has been Venture Ready. And just this week, we had the graduation for 10 businesses from the Venture Ready program. And there were some amazing startup businesses with great tech, and their growth is only going to help Arizona. And so we're going to take some of that stuff that we've learned over the last 10 years with the AIC, and we're going to focus some of that, and I'll talk about it more in a bit, for small businesses.
That's great. So just on the three pieces here, on the create side, I was really the benefactor of having a conversation with Robert, because I just had a client about 3 weeks ago call me out of New York, Buffalo, wanting to know if there was manufacturing space available for PPE, so personal protection equipment. And so I was just starting to put together some research to go find out. So I had contacted the Manufacturers Association. I talked to a friend of mine who is stationed in Arizona. He's got a corporate office out of Tempe, but he's got a manufacturing company in Hermosillo, Sonora, Mexico. Then Robert told me that he's got all that already put together. So we're going to continue to have our dialogue this next coming week, and hopefully we'll be able to attract a major manufacturer in personal protection equipment here pretty quickly.
Thanks, Harry.
All right. Yes, thank you, Harry, and thank you, Robert. And for those of you who want to get in touch, we will have that information on the app.
Next, we're going to be talking about the power of video. Founder of Coco Communication, which helps to boost their visibility and connect with their target market. She takes care of all aspects of video, including professional videography, video editing, script editing, voice-over narration, and on-camera and coaching and more. And those of you that have done any of those pieces knows it takes a lot of work, and you really got to know what you're doing. She'll be sharing some secrets about that. She's worked on air as a news reporter and anchor or behind the scenes for TV and radio stations, including NBC, ABC, and CBS affiliates. Prior to that, she was a host, writer, and producer for Shop A to Z TV, which aired on 3 TV in Phoenix. And she was recognized as the 2018 Business Owner of the Year for NABO Phoenix. With that, Connie Colella.
A 1-minute quality video has the same emotional impact as 1.8 million written words. That's 3,600 web pages. Nearly 9 out of 10 companies use video as a marketing tool today. Are you? Video is a must in your marketing strategy. Not only is it the most effective type of content at building relationships and trust to generate leads, it's the best way to educate people on your message. And right now, based on our limited human interaction, you really need to maximize and enhance your virtual presence through video. So there's several types of video that you can use to market your business, to promote your brand. We're going to talk about 5 of them today. The first type is a business explainer video. This is usually you on camera talking about your product or service, What is your offering? Do people really understand what you do and what you offer? What makes you different? Why should people do business with you? So this video explains all of that in 90 seconds or less. There's a few components that you want to try to incorporate into that. You want to make sure that you have a call to action. It's typically at the end. You know, call us today for XYZ. People need to know what the next step is. You want your logo in it. It's really important to have your branding in that video. Music. Music evokes emotion, and people buy based on emotion. You also want to tell a story if you can. It will be more engaging and compelling. It will hold people's attention longer. All right, good lighting, super important. You want to make sure your light source is in front of you, not behind you. Good lighting and good audio, very important when you're creating videos. Okay, the second type of video is a client testimonial video. It is the most effective type of video content that you can offer. Hands down, a client testimonial video. If you don't have one, you need to get one, and it's really easy to do. It's far more credible than a written testimonial. So the great thing about it is you don't have to go on camera. You don't have to write anything. Your clients are selling you and your brand authentically. What more could you ask for? So what I typically do for my clients, I say, okay, let's get 3 of your top customers together on one day. Think of 3 people who are going to look good on camera and sound good on camera. And in 1 hour, I will interview all 3 of them in 20-minute time slots. So remember, I used to be a reporter. I know what questions to ask to get the most compelling sound bites for the greatest emotional impact. So when I'm interviewing them and asking them questions, I'm listening for that good 20 to 30-second meaty sound bite. And then I weave those together seamlessly in a 90-second video that they can then put on their website. The great thing about that is, in 1 hour, you're actually going to get 4 videos because I repurpose that one video and I will break those 3 people out into 3 separate 20 to 30-second sound bites that you can utilize on social media. On social media, you want it really short and sweet. Think 15 to 45 seconds. You can go longer on your website, 90 seconds max usually. If you want to go longer than that, then you can put it on YouTube. Okay. So if you want to DIY as far as video, if you want to do something a little bit different and you have a customer appreciation event, just grab your cell phone and say, hey, can you say 20 to 30 seconds about what you think of our business and, you know, the projects that we've worked on together? Or, you know, since we're not seeing each other as much now and not holding as many events, ask them when you're done working with them for a project, when you're done with that particular client, say, hey, can you just grab your phone real quick and do a selfie video, 20 to 30 seconds about your experience with working with me, and are you okay with me using that for marketing purposes? Boom, there you go. Simple, very simple. Client testimonial video, the most effective type of content you can offer anyone. All right, the third type is a company culture video. So this is basically showcasing your company or your brand. It's the behind-the-scenes look at how you guys work every day. This is, you know, why is it such a great place to work? Why are people so passionate about working for you? So you're going to incorporate your employee testimonials in that video. And what's great about this is you can also utilize a company culture video as a recruiting tool. So put that out there, and then people see how great your company is, why people are passionate about working there. Hey, I think I want to try to get a job there, right? It's twofold. It's great. That's a company culture video. Okay, a vlog is the next type. That's the 4th type of video you should try to utilize. That's a video blog. It's great at building credibility and trust. So think 90 seconds, like a tip of it's valuable content, a tip of the day, a tip of the week, a tip of the month, a demonstration of something, a how-to video, anything along those lines. Pick a topic, break down what you offer, and put it into 90-second videos. You can shoot it all in one day and then drip it out on social media once a week or once a month, whatever it is. Engaging your followers gets them to eventually become buyers. Material consumption leads to sales, so the next time they have a need, they're going to reach out to you and you'll be top of mind. So I have a question for you. So by a raise of hands, would you rather watch a video or would you rather read a blog? Video. Okay, I won't even ask the reading because it's overwhelming. You are in the majority. People are 4 times more likely to watch a video than read a blog. So, throw out some numbers for me. What is the percentage of people that will read a written blog in its entirety? Just throw out some numbers. Oh, who said 20? One smart man right there. 20% of people will read an entire blog. So are you expending your time and energy on written blogs? You want to invest that time in a video instead. Far less time will be put into that to get that video done, and you will actually be able to get your message out there. And the good thing about it is people may actually share that video as well. They're more likely to share the video than they are for the blog, for the written content. 59% of senior executives say that they would rather watch a video than read a blog. All right, and the 5th type is a project profile video. So think of this as a 90-second video montage recap of what you offer, of your projects for the year. This is something you can do quarterly, or you can do it in December at the end of the year as a recap of what you've done to showcase what you've done for the year for your clients. You can incorporate pictures, you can incorporate B-roll, maybe you have some aerial footage of something, music, graphics, a voiceover too, anything along those lines. This is really easy to do for construction companies, interior designers, ad agencies, anyone that has good opportunities for visuals, that's a good opportunity to do project profiles. And hey, how about a holiday video card? So put your key players on camera, thanking people for their support for the year, and then incorporate some of those projects that you've done for the year. So you're not only wishing them happy holidays, you're thanking them for their support, and at the same time you're showcasing what you've done for the year. Holiday video card, great route to take at the end of the year. So video is powerful. It's a critical marketing tool to build brand authority. Use it to your advantage to connect with your target market and build trust. Thank you.
Next, he became an entrepreneur in 1996 when he opened his first insurance agency. He's owned and sold insurance brokerages. He's owned Allstate agencies for 7 years of his career. In 2003, he franchised his business model, combining insurance, mortgage, and real estate. It was during this time that he found his passion for digital marketing and the relation between marketing and technology. That's when he started Unico Enterprises and Unico Media Group and Biz Solutions. Today, he still owns his insurance agency and thriving in the online digital marketing world, helping new entrepreneurs energize their ideas. It is the new marketing norm. Now here's a little secret that I had to dig up about him. You ready for this? A very sensitive man, and you know why? Because he grew up as being the youngest in the family of 5 sisters. With that, Sal Ayala Jr.
So much. And the youngest. So thank you, everybody, for coming out today. It's been a great event so far. Just listening to all the other panelists, I've learned so much. I always say you don't ever know it all. There's always something to learn. Can you guys hear me okay? No? Is that better? Okay, I'm going to bring it closer. So something that I want to first start with, I'm just going to hold on to it, is that before we can talk about the new norm, we have to look at what happened in the past, right? What's happened in the past. And as I spun off my media marketing company back in 2007, I had actually started that company in 2003, right? And I started because I saw the need for my franchisees to help them get their name out and help them market themselves, right? So as I saw that need, I launched that company. 2007 comes along, very similar 2008 to what we're going through today, right? I kind of saw the writing on the wall. Everything was really going online, right? So I actually had at the time I had a 4,000 square foot office in Corona, had 17 cubicles, had a lot of staff, right? My overhead was $40,000 a month, and everything was going downhill in real estate. Luckily, I had this marketing company, right, that I had started, so I decided to spin that off and focus on digital marketing. I did that because of the current situation that we were in, right? And we were just talking earlier with, where's my good friend? He's already gone. Oh, there he is. We were just talking about the fact that unless something changes and something kind of, in Spanish they say, te mueven el tapete, that means they move the rug from under you. You start kind of doing something, right? And that usually is what makes us take action, right? And so my action was, all right, I'm gonna move everything online, right? So one of the things that I did was I put all of my business virtual, right? So when we're talking about the new norm, it's not really that we've done something different, right? That we had to reinvent something. It's been there for a long time. As Harry mentioned earlier, he's been working remotely from his home for the past, I think you said 12 years, Harry, if I'm not mistaken? 2012, since 2012. I knew there was a 12 in there somewhere. So since 2012, he's been doing that, right? So in reality, unfortunately, we haven't been leveraging technology like we should be, right? I got into technology and marketing not only because I found it was my passion, I really love what I do, but because I figured I would always have a job. If you know what we're doing today, we're streaming online. We actually have one of my employees from Guadalajara, Mexico, helping us, manage this conference from Mexico, right? So it's pretty interesting how technology and marketing marketing is never going to go away. You're always going to have to promote your product to somebody. You're always going to have to sell your product to somebody. So, those two fields for me have been very, very successful. So with that said, what is the new marketing norm? The new marketing norm, right, is analyzing what you were doing in person, right, and figuring out how you can take that online. I saw a big spike in our clientele with restaurants. A lot of the restaurants, especially those smaller mom and pop shops, weren't using Grubhub, weren't using all the tools that were out there for them to already be, online. So they had to pivot, right? Now they were bringing food to people instead of them going out to the restaurants, right? So one of the things that I told, I also sit on a few boards. I sit on the California Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I'm the region chair. So as I was talking to the different chambers, a lot of them were expressing that a lot of these restaurants were coming to them. I said, well, one of the things that you should consider is why don't you turn your waiters into drivers, right? Why don't your waiters go out and do the deliveries, keep them, employed, and start looking at technology and leveraging whatever you have. Some of the smaller restaurants that were out there that didn't have a website, didn't have a way of ordering online, didn't have a system set up. The recommendation was, well, go to Grubhub, go to something that's already established and it's already there for you to be able to utilize, right? So in reality, when you look at the new norm, it's really training yourself to think differently, right? Training yourself to utilize what's already been there for the longest time. I've been working in this method since 2009, I believe. We strictly went with taking all of my staff to Mexico, right? So all of my staff, I think we're up to 17 employees out of Guadalajara, Mexico, right? That's helped me, right, be competitive and stay alive, right? Because at that time, in 2007, 2008, it was a very difficult time. So in order for me to be able to stay viable, I actually went out and did a virtual office, right? I rented a virtual office, and we're seeing that right now. A lot of companies, Verizon's been doing it for a long time. A lot of companies are looking at it. Well, should I really come back and lease that space when I'm being effective working from home and saving myself that money? So obviously, there's going to be a big shift in how businesses do business, right? Those property owners that are losing that is going to turn into the WeWork type of operations, right? They don't really need a physical location. They can use their WeWork and meet clients there and so on. But with this technology, I love it because now it trained a lot more people to do business with me, right? A lot more people. Before we use a platform called Ring Central, which is actually a platform that is a white label of Zoom. So we've been selling actually Ring Central for a long time. So now I feel great because a lot of my clients, a lot of business owners are able to use this platform and communicate with me a lot easier. So in reality, to me, the new norm is basically educating yourself on technology, educating yourself on marketing, making sure that you have a backup plan, right? So you're not caught last minute trying to scramble and do what you need to do. Again, for us, it's been COVID-19 has represented an opportunity for us, right? Opportunity because of all the educating that needed to happen with our existing clients. We actually work with quite a few restaurants, and we have some catering companies that we were able to help, and I have some testimonials. I agree with the Connie. The video testimonials are huge, right? And that was one of our clients that did a testimonial for us as a result of how we helped him get online and take care of his customers in that way versus continuing to try to work in the old way of doing business, right? And I'm just glad that we actually have this hybrid event, right? Because I think this is a new norm. What we're sitting here today, look at how everybody's sitting out here, 6 feet apart. Exactly, we're on Zoom. So we have the online platform, we have the in-person platform. So I think we're experiencing the new norm. As much as I love digital marketing and online marketing, I couldn't stand being at home. It's just sitting behind that desk and not being able to come out and hug. And I'm a hugger and a kisser with 5 sisters. Can you imagine how many kisses and hugs and come on, let's dance. So I was, I'm very social. So for me to not be able to do that was going crazy. So I think this is the new norm, right? This is the new norm. They're just changing in the way that we do business, leveraging our technology, leveraging every single aspect of the online platform that we have at our disposal is very, very important.
Okay. Now you got me. Woo woo. All right. So, is radio dead? What's going on with podcasting? I'm going to share with you some of the secrets of what's happening within the radio world and also within the podcasting world. And some of you may be podcasting now. In fact, some of you probably will by the time that I'm done. Because what's the purpose of podcasting? Other questions are going to go through your mind of, well, can I do it? So I'm going to share the first part of the story of a little bit of my background. And the purpose of it is to prove to you that if I could do it, I guarantee that you can. My background. Never did so well in high school. Grades were pretty mediocre, C, maybe D, and never really much of a social person. But there was one thing that took place in high school periodically that got my attention more than anything else. And it was when the school would bring in somebody from the outside world to come and talk. Suddenly, I was on. I didn't even care what they did. It was somebody from the outside world that was doing something besides being a teacher and besides a student. And I paid close attention to that. For every word, I remember being wide awake. And so time went on, and I was an introvert. So I had my group of friends, didn't feel that I had to have any more friends than the 3 or 4 friends that I had. Then after college, I started a few different businesses. And within each business, I knew people specifically within that industry. Why? There was no need to ever go outside. I didn't know anybody outside of the industry. And when I left one industry, suddenly nobody wanted to talk to me anymore, go figure, and went into another industry from sales to marketing to then consulting and so on. Each one had its own, what I call, bubble. And many of you are in bubbles now, whether you admit it or not. You know everybody within your industry. You may only know a couple people outside. So let's first answer the question in regards to radio. Is radio dead? 89% of Americans 13 years or older listen to radio. And guess what? That stat hasn't changed in the past 11 years. Now let's talk about podcasting. Who here has listened to a podcast? Raise your hand. Okay. So, 75% of Americans are familiar with podcasting. Now, who here is already doing podcasting? Anybody doing podcasting? Wonderful. So pay close attention too, because I'm going to share some secrets for those of you that haven't done it and for those of you that are doing it. So when I started doing podcasting, and it came to mind because of the fact of what happened in high school, was I wanted to talk to other people that weren't within my circle. And I was like, well, how am I going to do this? I don't have any experience doing it. Those of you that know me also know that I can't pronounce names so well. So how am I going to go ahead and do that, and so on. When I sold my last business and got involved with a community called Alliances, we were looking at ways of how to promote people within the Alliances community. So I approached a radio show, Money Radio, that's on AM 1510 and 105.3. And I asked them in the sense of, well, how can we go about getting, some people in the community on your show and getting them, getting them some exposure? And he said, well, we really don't do any partnerships. We're not going to do anything and all that. I said, well, is there anything we can do? Because my goal was to get people exposure. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, who else are you talking to? And I remember saying I was talking to the Business Journal too, because I wanted to get people involved in the Business Journal. You all know the Phoenix Business Journal, get exposure in there. And I'll never forget what he said to me. He said, if you go ahead and you are able to sign, meaning getting the Phoenix Business Journal involved, we'll go ahead and we'll put people on the radio. I said, fantastic, I could do it. I walked out of there going, next thing I know, the Business Journal signed up, and he kept his part of the deal. But here's where things got bad, really bad, because you know what he said to me? Great, you're going to go ahead and you're going to host the show. Good God, what? But don't worry, we're only going to give you 5 minutes a week. I said, okay, I think I can get through 5 minutes a week. Now remember, I'm an introvert. Don't pronounce names so well. I don't know what to talk about. I'm not familiar with all these different industries. I said, okay, I could do it. So I was doing 5-minute interviews. Half the time was just reading their background. I'm like, okay, I can get through the last 2 minutes. In, out, done. After about 4 months, I get a phone call. I remember the phone call, and it went something like this. We have to make a change in regards to your show. I said, okay, oh, God, this is it. All right, well, forget that. I guess no more radio. And he said, with the excitement that you have and with what's going on with the show, we're going to move it and give you an hour. But don't worry, it won't take you a whole lot of more work and effort to do. So I hung up the phone. Sure, hung up the phone. I said, I don't know how to talk more than 5 minutes, less alone more than an hour to somebody. What am I going to do? And it was at that point that I tried to figure out what to do. And someone within the Alliances community, some of you may know her as Glue, she stepped up and she says, yeah, you know what, I'll help. And she helped to actually be the producer of the show. At the beginning, it's about getting guests. Now, those of you that have podcasts, because this is now podcast, this is also spun out to many of the various podcasts. I'll share some secrets of some of the top podcasts that you'll want to be on. But it's about getting guests, and I'm going to mention that. But I want to share with you, because it is podcasting, radio also, but podcasting that could change your life. And let me share with you how it's changed my life. Now remember, introvert, small circle, didn't know anyone. So in regards to sports, I'm really not a sports guy, just business guy. But I like sports, but I don't know a whole lot about sports. So, People that, just giving you a drop of some of the people, and this isn't to brag, this is just to show you somebody who knows nothing about most things except maybe business, ends up interviewing some people that you all would know. Like Lee Steinberg, the CEO of Steinberg Sports, of which the real-life Jerry Maguire movie was after. The president of the Arizona Rattlers, which has been associated with the alliances. The president of the Phoenix Suns, the president of the Coyotes, and a ton of others. So thereby being involved, they were involved and others were able to benefit. Business, I've interviewed Richard Branson, co-founder of Constant Contact, Dollar Tree. Here's a quiz for you. Do you know the revenue of Dollar Tree? I interviewed the founder. Anybody want to take a guess? You know Dollar Tree selling things for $1? What's the revenue, annual revenue? Anyone want to take a guess? $1 million? Billion? $1 billion. Great guess. $2 billion. Wonderful. I'll give you my car if you get it. Oh, too late. All right. $15 billion. Recently passed away. God rest his soul. Now, with my kids, it's gotten a little tough. Because you see, they really don't care who I interview. It just doesn't turn them on. I'm like, I got to find something. Well, wouldn't you know it? My son likes to watch the show called Stranger Things. And who did I have on and who's part of Alliances? The creator of the monster, of which then he was able to take a tour in Los Angeles of his studio and actually see the real thing in person. I scored some points with that. I'm still working on my daughter to figure out how I can score some points with her. Entertainment. I've interviewed the CNBC founder, E! Entertainment founder, many real housewives of all the different cities. My wife gets a kick out of that, so that's good. Makes for a pleasant evening. Politicians. I've interviewed Secretary of State, State Treasurer, Patrick Kennedy, the congressman, son of Ted Kennedy, Newt Gingrich, the late Senator McCain. That was interesting. My wife goes to a baseball game. She calls me. She was with my son. She's like, McCain's in front of us. He's with his wife. I said, go up to him. Tell him you know David Kogan. They're like, no, I can't do that. I said, I promise you, this is a lifetime opportunity. I've interviewed both of them. She goes up to him. I am Sophia, the wife of David Kogan. Oh! And the next thing you know, they're taking pictures and they're talking and all that. Why wasn't I there? Because I was working. Another politician that I interviewed was the president of the United Nations General Assembly. Now, I'll never forget this one. You got to hear this story. This is a kick. So we get him on, and this was all being done through, telephone. What happens? We're having technical difficulties. Oh my God, we have the President of the United Nations General Assembly on. We never have technical problems. We have technical problems. What do we do? So I told my producer, keep him entertained. Don't let him hang up. Whatever you do, keep him on the line till we get it fixed, because this is the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Now, once you know it, by the time the interview was over, we were closer to him than almost anybody else, because things happen. It's turning a disaster into another. So things are rocking and rolling, everything's going good. All of a sudden, COVID hits. So, as I mentioned before, well, the easy excuse is, well, we've been doing this on the phone, I guess we'll just postpone it until COVID ends. Well, you can't wait till anything ends. Anything in life. Then we ended up going to video. Now, those of you that are podcasting now, I would recommend that you also to go to video. One of the video platforms we use, you may want to write this down, is called StreamYard. It allows you to customize your own studio. Am I okay on time? Okay. Well, here we go again, doctor. Because the problem is that I was so used to being on the telephone doing interviews, using the computer doing interviews. Now I got to do video. Oh my God. And it's those things of, all right, how do we get through this? Now, here is why I am a believer of using a video platform for interviews. I would say about 80% of the people that I connected with via voice, I can call up at any time. Very short period of time and connected with them. Now, with video and seeing them, it is a whole nother world. If you're not podcasting, I would recommend that you do and recommend that you try it out. It is a blast. It is amazing. It is amazing seeing people and hearing their story because everybody's got a story. Everybody. And I found from doing over 800 interviews, I bring out the best in people. I do when I interview them because I look at things as such an accomplishment. Anybody that could start anything it's a huge accomplishment. Anybody that's contributing to society, anybody that has a job, it is a big deal. All right. Couple things. We now get over 200 requests a week to be on the radio, podcasting. A week come in. Over 200. I don't sort through those. Producer does, but over 200. It will open doors for you like you would never believe. You would be talking to people you may not ever have before. You could start with your family. In fact, I'm most often asked, who is the most incredible celebrity, best interview you ever had? Anybody want to take a guess? My wife has them, she won't come on. Go figure. But you're close. My mother and my 2 kids. I've interviewed them. And asking things like the same things that I ask during the celebrities that I interview. What's your good luck charm? What's this? What's the biggest impact that you has had on your life? I'm asking a 12-year-old that at the time. But the stories and the things, it's just, I never knew. How many of us ever take the time and ask our family members that or our kids? What's the biggest impact? Who's been the biggest impact? What, this, that, and the other. And make up, create questions. And there'll be some time for Q&A part 2 after this. You could start now. If you have a hobby, can you imagine who has a hobby here? Can somebody name a hobby that they have? Yes. Gardening. So imagine if you were able to now talk to other people who are in the gardening field. You have something in common with them, and you create a podcast, and you start putting it out there, and now other gardeners are contacting you, and you are learning more skills than anybody else, and you become the top gardener. You become the top gardener. Why? Because now you're interviewing everyone that you wish you could interview. Now they're coming to you. It's a simple thing of that. And those of you that want to use it for business, a lot of people are contacting people that they're potentially looking at as customers. I don't recommend you push or you sell or anything of that. That's a whole nother conversation about how you make that turn. But you get them on. You find out what their needs are. And when you find out what their needs are, then you could start pivoting your own business to matching that. So if you're an SEO expert, start targeting. Who's your target market with SEO? Healthcare, start having them on. I had the CEO of Banner Healthcare on. And other healthcare, Blue Cross Blue Shield. Okay, who am I? 200 requests a week. It's now start just to coming and coming and coming and coming. Have friends, have family. All right, so here, you're going to want to write this down. So David, how do I start? I don't know anybody. Well, it's okay, I didn't know anybody either. All right, there's a website out there. Now this website, 2 parts of it. One, where you could put yourself on it to be on other podcasts. And the second part, where you could find people who want to be on your podcast. It's called radioguestlist.com. radioguestlist.com. So those of you that are saying, yeah, David, I'm not interested in podcasting, fine, but you want to be on podcasts? You want to be on the show? Do that. What we do on our show is pretty unique because what we do is we take people that may not be well known and we pair them with people who are well known so that when Richard Branson was interviewed by me, we had other people that were mentioned on his show, and when he's spinning it out, he's tagging and pulling them along. And when they're spinning theirs out, they're like, yeah, no, I was on the air with Richard Branson. You know who that is? Yeah, I think I've heard of him. And it creates this circle. It creates this circle. And be passionate about it. Our gardener, he's passionate. He's how quick he raised his hand. And imagine if he was able to do that and then start making money off of it, making revenue, because you can. And it happens. And we are. Some of the top podcasts that are out there, and yes, you creating your show can get on these podcasts. iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn. There's a number of directories out there, Spreaker, YouTube also, Facebook. Now you may be going, well, I just want to do social media, then start with social media. Some of you may go, well, you know, there's a cost involved. You got a computer? Who here has a computer? Everybody's got a computer. All right, you could go ahead and get started. You can do Zoom. If you don't want to do the StreamYard and all that, do Zoom. Zoom is free. You already have a computer. So that is how it's changed my life, and it's brought me out. It's brought me to talk to people I would never in a million years talk to. And even if I saw them, I wouldn't necessarily talk to them. Now, I have something in common with each of you here. I guarantee you, I could tie somebody who I've interviewed into an interest of what you have. So break the shell, and if your shell's already broken, come out full force. So thank you again. This is David Kogan, and appreciate it. If you want to see our website, you can go to eliancer.com. That'll show you some of the people that we've interviewed, ELIANCER.com. And listen to those interviews. And when you listen to them too, remember, it's the first time that I've spoken to them, and yet there's such a connection. I just interviewed the singer of Who Let the Dogs Out. Next thing I know on video, I'm dancing with them while they're doing it, while we're playing their latest song. Very surreal.
All right, well, it looks like we have come towards the end. And I know Denise has been working really hard, so why don't we all just give her another round of applause, and then she's going to announce the raffles. Just one more time, for the people on Zoom, you can get all of our information on the app.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Had a great day. Be safe, mask up, and we'll see you next year.